Welcome to an episode of P-Car Talk. It's a special episode.
Yeah.
Returning guest, Bart Kuykens. Thank you from Belgium, right? I say Kuykens, right? Is that correct?
It's Kuykens.
Kuykens.
Everybody struggles.
Always says that.
So
Like, Kuykens.
I'll take it.
Okay. But on a book tour, thank you for joining us. If you're a listener or a watcher of the show, we had him on, 3 years ago? I think it was 3.
Yeah, it's like episode 67.
In Miami at Walt Grace. Thanks for coming on the show. You're in St. Pete making your tour. You're headed to Miami DRT and visiting everybody on the East Coast. And thanks for coming over.
You're welcome.
So yeah, let's catch up a little bit. We know what's going on with you, and everybody else should know what's going on. If some of our listeners not know what's going on, you have a book release. Talk to us a little bit about that book.
Yeah, I think the first podcast we did at the Walt Grace, I think it's almost 4 years ago, if not 5. It was right after the pandemic, so it must be.
Yeah, probably 4.
Yeah, 4, and that was a Flat Six Love Affair. I think maybe edition 5 or edition 6. I don't know anymore.
I have them all, by the way. They're awesome.
Amazing, thank you. I don't have them anymore.
No.
I sold them all, and at some point I was thinking, where is my set? So I don't have a set
so you
myself.
don't have a set. Oh.
So, but my mom has a set, so that's all good.
Okay.
So that's 4 years ago, and then in between I did and the Essential Love Affair was basically like a best of.
Yes.
Then I did a color book.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Remember we talked a little bit about before
color.
You were like, nah, I don't know if I'll ever shoot color.
No, I was always shooting black and white. Then I said, okay, let's go out of my comfort zone and shoot color. So I did a color book, which was nice. It was different for me. Then I did To Live and Drive in Los Angeles, a book about the Porsche community in LA. And then after that, let me think, I did the Miami book, which is called Dream and Drive in the 305. Which the 305, for you guys it's obvious, but for a lot of people in Europe I had to explain, what is this title? But 305 was basically the area code. When you had a cell phone back in the days, it was 305.
Exactly.
So, and it was like Dream and Drive in the 305. So it was like
it goes together well. Yeah,
it goes together well. So, it was interesting photographing people in Miami, of course. The thing is, you only have it's 320 pages, like 10 pictures, 15 pictures from everybody. So you have only like 20, 25 people you can shoot.
And there's so many to shoot down there too, right?
Yeah,
so it's probably hard for you to pick.
Yeah, there's so many to shoot, and you want to have a good diversity in cars, in people, because it's easy to find men, of course, but it's always difficult to find women who drive a Porsche, who own.
And want to be photographed too, right?
Want to be photographed because that's much more difficult than a guy. The guy's like, hey, here I am, take pictures, I'm fine. And with women, is this okay? Is this the right clothing? And it's just different.
How's my light? Is it too dark?
Is it too dark? Yeah, it's different.
And if you don't know, Bart is very like combat shooter. Bang, bang, bang! I got it. Let's keep it moving. Like I'm done.
Yeah,
I always say fast and painless. That's one of the titles of my portrait book that I did. Nothing to do with cars. It's called Fast and Painless because I like to shoot like fast and painless. Like, I think if you cannot do it in an hour, you cannot do it in a day neither. Although
that's a good concept.
The way I shoot, I mean, if you want everything staged, then it takes longer, of course. But I like to get in there and just start. And sometimes I just start already, and people think, "Hey, when do we start?" I say, I'm
halfway through.
Halfway through. So just keep
doing
moving.
your thing.
Keep talking to your wife. Keep walking with the dog. Keep playing with your phone. Whatever. I also think that's the most interesting pictures because everything looks natural. Because don't forget the people I photograph, they're not professional models. So after a while they get like, what should I do with my hand? Should I stand like this or here? Or they get uncomfortable, and then you get these weird pictures like people standing all freezing next to their car, like can I move? Or
you're like, you look like a statue, man. Exactly. Stop, just be natural. So, I admire that about you, though. I think I've noticed that of all the books that I own of yours, and seeing, and following you on Instagram after I've met you, and like all of your shoots, like you do such a great job of just capturing the natural human behavior in the environment and working with like what you've been given instead of trying to prop up and stage something, right? Instead of be like, hey, let's go over here and move those tables and move that. You're like, hey man, cars parked by a chain link fence, that works. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be cool. Like just stand by the fence or something. And it's, you know, and it looks like almost like the dude just got out of prison and jumped in a Porsche or something. It's like, man, how'd you do that? And you're like, man, I just worked with what was there.
Yeah. That's how I try to work, and there's of course there's a flip side to the coin, because sometimes there's something passing by, you like an ugly van or whatever, and then it's in the picture, and then I also think it is what it is, because this is life.
So you don't edit very much.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. I like the perfect imperfection.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out great, and you have somebody on a bike or somebody walking or running, and then I think that adds to the picture because it's real life. I shoot always on film, so that brings also the thing that not everything is sharp as you used to have with an iPhone or a digital camera, but I like that as well. Sometimes when I want to go too fast and then the shutter speed is too low and then my picture gets all blurry. But then it looks nice as well because
because it's real.
It's real.
Of
course it's different if you need to shoot back shots of diamonds or watches, whatever, then it has to be sharp. I get it. But I shoot more like lifestyle. So that's how I like to do it. That's how I feel okay with it. I still feel really happy when I go to shoot in the morning. I'm really excited when I go to shoot in the morning. The moment I wake up and I think, oh my God, no, then it's time for me to do something else. So I never prepare for a shoot. I just like to know, hey, do you have a location in mind? Then we go there, I see you there. And then it is what it is. When the sun is shining, great. If it's raining, it is what it is.
You just work with the elements, right?
And we make the best out of it, and it always works. And that's for me,
So when you do that, though, I think, like you said, it takes probably a lot of stress off of you. So it almost probably, I mean, I'm speaking for you, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in my mind, I would think like it actually allows you to be more creative in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking of like how it needs to go, you just kind of let it happen, and you're like, oh, hey, I didn't know what this place looked like, but that's a cool tree over there. Like, let's do that, you know, or something. So like that freedom, and that's probably actually pretty nice for you.
Yeah, that's also one of the things I really like. Most of the times I go to a shoot and I take 2 lenses, and most of the time one. That's what I try to do lately. Just take one, or it's a 35 or a 50 or even an 80 millimeter, and then just let's see. And then that's for me the excitement as well, because sometimes I walk into a place where we have to shoot there and I think 35 millimeter would have been great. Now I'm here with my 80.
What do I have to do?
So, and then I have to shit, there's not enough place, but that's for me the part that I like. So I have to be constantly creative for myself. So I have to look for angles or whatever, or go up, go down, whatever. So it's fun for me as well. If you have like a set of 10 lenses, for me it kills the fun. Because then you're more like busy with changing lenses and this is 35, this is 50, this might be 80.
It becomes more of an equipment game, right?
Like
you're playing with the equipment more than you're actually involved in the shoot, right?
And even if you have one lens, you can, if you're too far, you have to walk around with a lens.
Like they used to do, right?
I remember my father, he took pictures and they standing still, same place, always at the same height, but never like this, never like this, never in an angle. It was always like this. So then you limit yourself. There's a lot of stuff you can do with one lens. You know? When you shoot a portrait, there's like you can go this way or this way or from the back and they look over the shoulder. You can go from the bottom or from the top. So you have a lot of angles, and people not always use them because you have to learn, because in the beginning you're afraid to talk to your audience, and you're like, hey, can you, especially when they're celebrities, and you say, hey, turn around, like, oh my God, maybe they say no, and then but then they say no, it is what it is, and most of the time they're used to it, and they just, as long as it goes fast,
so as long as you don't draw it out, right?
No.
So it seems like most recently, and we'll talk about the book that you talked about that's coming out after, but right now you have, you've done the LA, you have the 305 book, a little bit of a city theme going. Is there other cities that you have in mind that you want to do in the future, and what cities are those? Do you want to do like London? Do you want to do New York? Do you want to do Chicago?
I would love to do New York. We are talking about doing a book in Chicago. I've been to Chicago. I love Chicago. It's a great place. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a great event every year going on.
Checked it out, right?
Yeah, checked it out. I was there. It's amazing. He's doing a great job.
Yes, it's a great event. If you haven't checked it out, you should go check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Checked it out.
Yeah.
So it's a great event. So that's an option as well. I just have to make sure it makes sense for me, because I don't want to be repetitive. It's always like the same.
Gotcha.
Because in the end, how many books do you want on your shelf with my name on, At some point, people say, it's okay now.
For you, as many as possible, I'm sure.
Yeah, for me. But I also want to keep the people excited about it. Or for me, I feel like I would love to have a little bit of more depth in my content, because in the end, a car and the owner is super nice. But I would, for example, love to do a book and take just one car, for example, my 912, and drive through Morocco for 2-3 weeks and shoot the same car in different locations, but also pictures of the people there, because
that would be cool.
It's a different vibe there,
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking, some people don't get it. Say, what is this? It's all the same car all the time, and
just in different spots, like this
different
is dumb.
spots, and then some pictures will be no car at all, and just like desert or people making whatever they make over there. So,
but you know what? Guess what? It wasn't for them. That's what the book wasn't for them then.
No. On the other hand, I have to think, hey,
people.
I shoot because I like it.
Yeah.
I always tell people, some people call me and say, hey, I'm a little bit stuck in my photography, and I tell them, listen, you have to shoot what you think is nice. And if people like it, you're lucky. If they don't like it, it doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's not for them.
Yeah.
You have to look for a different audience. Yeah. It's the same with the car. Some people like a singer, some people like...
Yeah. Just race car stuff. Some people
race car stuff. I'm not really into the... I like to go and see a race, but I don't feel like I want to shoot a book about on a track or something.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to explore now. Like, hey, how can I make my life more interesting? And of course, there's a lot of places. If you think about Japan.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Somebody contacted me and said, there's a big community in the Philippines, a really nice community. Of course, it's a long way from home, so you have to plan it, and you don't go for a week. So you have to go there. The languages,
exactly. A lot of logistics, right?
Logistics. It doesn't get cheaper, the traveling.
No.
So
we talked a little bit about that offline with us too. It's like the travel is so expensive, and everybody who's maybe not in this industry of like in grinding, maybe somebody who has a traditional job, so when they travel, it's on the company's expense. But like, and when you travel, it's your expense, but it is your company still. So it's kind of like, hey, this is business. Like, yes, I'm traveling and everybody thinks this is just fun. It's fun, but at the same time, it has to make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had someone mailing me like, and it was funny when you talking about it, but he mailed me and said, listen, I would love to buy your book, but I think they're expensive. I ask $150 for my books all the time.
Yeah.
It's more
super
it's
reasonable.
$150 or euro, whatever. And I said, listen, I can
and they're all numbered, by the way. Sorry not to cut you off.
Most of them, I have a short explanation, which is make a book and call me back. And then we talk about it. And then the second explanation is like, listen, I have to go, for example, 3-4 weeks to LA. Maybe I have to go twice. It's a lot of money. The hotels, the flights, the food, whatever. A day in LA is $400-$500, whatever. Easy.
Yeah.
So you have to shoot on film, you have to develop, you have to scan, you have to go, you put the hours in, you have to make the book.
And all your time that
graphic
you've invested.
designer, you have to. You also want quality paper. You don't want like cheap paper. So I think I lost money on the LA book because I only did an edition of 300.
Yeah.
So I think I lost money.
Yeah, because at that price, you have to have volume, right? Like at least to get the money back.
Yeah. So I didn't kept the bills because otherwise I get depressed. But so there's a lot of money going in.
Yeah.
Also, the Miami book, the same. You have to fly to Miami, take the hotel, go around, shoot, come back. So.
And then your time is obviously valuable. So like that, you can't put a real price tag on that because, you know, like with the book, like it could literally be whatever you wanted to charge because what you value your time as, it could be, you know, so who is anybody who can argue that with you? No one can do that, right? No one can say, hey, well, why are you charging $500 for that book? It's like, because that's what my time is worth.
Because I think it's 500.
Because that's what my time is worth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So absolutely. But I try to be reasonable. I think 150 is very reasonable.
Oh, it's incredibly reasonable.
The color book was a little bit more expensive when it came out.
I think you undercharged for the Porsche series you did. Like that was a lot of work you invested. Like I remember seeing you were shooting in so many different locations because that whole series, you know, I've looked at it many times and all of the places all over the world that you shot. And all of that, putting all that together, all that thought process, all of that development. I think, I mean, I could say this. I mean, I bought every single one of them, but I would have paid double what you charge for them because I think they're that valuable.
Do you think I should send him an invoice?
Yeah. Go ahead, right after this.
You should send every single person that bought them all, right?
No, the like, thing is, to be honest, it started as a hobby.
Yeah.
Because I still have my casting agency. And this was like just for fun in the beginning. And then it got bigger and bigger and exhibitions and invited here, another book. So now it's what I do for a living. Yeah. So that's also a different mindset.
It is.
But I like to do it. It's really great. You meet a lot of people and in the end it's about that. Like, hey.
It is. The experiences,
right? Experience. I made a lot of great friends. There's people you photographed you never hear again, which is okay as well. You don't expect Jay Leno to call you every 2 weeks and say, hey, Bart, how are you? How is your book? He probably doesn't even know.
Hey, Sir Derek Bell, what are you doing this weekend? You want to get a coffee?
Yeah. But Derek is a super nice guy, by the way.
He is, actually.
You see him and he's like, hey,
very
Derek,
down to earth, right?
Yeah, very. And he comes always for a shot. Chad is a really nice guy. Jay Leno is different. I photographed him 3 or 4 times, but he's used to it, you know?
Yes.
I send him a book and then whatever. But I should write a book about all the stories that I had in the Flat Six Love Fest series because I did a lot of interesting people, like going from Jay Leno to Paloma Picasso, Derek Bell, Patrick Dempsey, and all of them had a super nice, interesting story about how I got there. Yeah. Because some stories are really like, oh my God, weird stuff, you know.
You should pick some people from that series and have like a chapter on each person and your experience with them and like the stories you had, like almost like a short story book.
Yeah,
that would be kind of neat.
I don't know if I told you the story of Jay Leno, but
royalties.
I landed in LA, huge jet lag because it's a 9-hour difference. This is 6. This is okay, but LA is 9.
That's massive.
And that's massive. So I woke up middle of the night and I had to shoot in the morning with the guy from the Peterson Museum. Bruce Meyer.
Yes, Bruce. Oh, nice guy too.
Super nice guy. So I'm shooting with Bruce Meyer, and I'm in his man cave where he's working, and you know, and I'm shooting, and Chip Connery is there as well.
Nice.
The collector. And we finished the shoot, and Bruce is telling me, "Who else do you shoot while you're here in LA?" I'm shooting Jeff Ward and maybe Magnus and this guy and this girl and this girl. And I said, okay, nice. If you want me to help, who do you want to shoot? Do you have someone in mind? And I'm going like, yeah, what about Jay Leno? And he's like, okay. And he takes his phone, he puts his up, and he calls Bernard. Because Bernard is the guy you need to call when you...
Yes.
Hey, Bernard, this is Bruce. I have a guy from Belgium, photographer. He wants to shoot Jay Leno. Okay, what's his number, sir? I said, what's your number, sir? I give my number. I said, okay, he's going to call him. I said, okay, whatever. But you know when they say he's going to call you, it's probably like, okay.
Well, same thing with us. We're like, we'll never hear from him.
Never hear from him again. So I'm in the car like 2, 3, 4 days later. I'm on the highway, traffic jam in LA. My phone goes. Pick the phone. Hello. Hey, son, it's Jay. Jay?
Wow.
Jay,
hey.
How are you? I said, good, how are you? I'm fine. I said, you want to shoot? I said, yeah. What about Thursday? Say, I'm fine.
You're like, I don't care what I have
I don't
going
care
Thursday.
what I have.
I'm
Say,
making this
fine.
happen.
Say, you know where it is? Sure. I had no clue where it was. I have to look it up. It's in Burbank.
Yeah.
So, okay, see you Thursday. And that was it. So, okay, bye. And then I said, oh my God. And then
You're like, this is gonna happen.
This is gonna happen. And then on Thursday, I went to Jay Leno, and he was super nice. He was not too busy, so I was lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me the tour of his cars.
Oh, that's nice.
Which it's a lot of cars.
Yes.
And then said, where do you want me? And then I said, yeah, whatever. So he doesn't have that much Porsches. He had 3 at the time. It was a Carrera, GT Carrera, then a brown.
It's got like an early long hood, right?
Yeah. So that was super nice. And then for the LA book, like 3 or 4 years later, I said, I'm gonna try Jay again. So, but I still had the email address. So I mailed, said, listen, I'm gonna book now only people live and drive in LA. What do you think? And he said, okay, sure, come over. And I photographed him with the GT Carrera. So he said, get in.
Great.
So he was driving in Burbank, and, way too fast, and the police, but he's go like, hey guys, and they go like, hey Jay, and it's like, okay, whatever. And
That's awesome.
And then it was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
I think it would be a good idea if you like those story that story you just shared was awesome. Like I think if you did like a little short story book.
I have a lot of these funny things that I think, oh my God, this is amazing. But I don't know if people are interested in this stuff.
I'm sure they would be.
It could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that stuff. I mean, what we do is we bring people on and storytell. I think for a lot of people, it's very interesting, to be honest with you, to hear those stories, because myself and Aaron, we're probably never going to get a chance to get in front of Jay or have a conversation with him, and to be able to speak to somebody who did spend some time with him and get some background on him and how he was. Like, I think that is interesting to a lot of people, especially like all of those people you've been, like Dempsey and all these other people that you got to spend some intimate time with and be like, oh yeah, he was a great guy, he was a funny guy, or oh, he's a very serious guy, or like those
Dempsey
kind of things.
was super nice as well. I met him through Patrick Long, and Dempsey took the 356 out, and we went to drive in the canyons, like for an hour. Super nice as well, and he was super interested in my Hasselblad that I was shooting with. So I said, can I take a couple of pictures? I said, yeah, sure. So he was like more interested in this all, like, because he's an actor, he's and that's pretty neat. Yeah, that surprised me as well, because some people you just do the shoot and that's it. Yeah. But he was like generally interested in photography, and hey, do you develop yourself? And it was super nice.
Wanted to know the why and the how and how everything happens, right?
Nice guy, yeah.
You should have had him take pictures of you, and then you could have had a memento.
Yeah,
there.
you're both taking pictures of each other. That'd have been funny, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, I like to inspire. That's one of the things why I keep shooting and doing what I do. I like to inspire other people with my work, also other photographers. And once in a while, I put something on Instagram. Hey, do you have questions? Send me a text. And once in a while, I give my number. Say, give me a call, and we talk for half an hour with someone, whatever. That's cool. And then most of the time, they struggle with the same stuff. Like they're stuck, like what they do. And most of the time, it's because they don't travel, they don't move. If you stay in your own village, it's very difficult to
always
make a nice picture.
That's a good point.
I never take a picture in my own city because it's my city, but I also see interesting things when I travel. Say, oh, this is nice, because I'm not familiar with this thing.
Yeah, because you could see it with a fresh eye as opposed to somebody who lives there every day, and you're like, oh yeah, that thing's been there forever. Like, it's important to travel. It's important to meet new people, I think. And then people ask me, how do you get with the celebrities? And this is 80% of the work, is make sure you get there. Once you're there, it's easy. Yeah. If you're in a room with whatever, Mick Jagger, or it's fine. Whatever he's doing, even if he's in his nose, it's a picture. It's fine because it's him. Yeah. Yeah. So it's much more difficult to take a picture from your brother or your sister. That makes sense. Yeah. Than from a celebrity, because because they already have a name. So it's like
whatever they do is cool.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so,
but the hustle is getting there.
Yeah. Putting yourself in the position to be able to get to the picture, right?
Absolutely. And that's something I had to learn. And of course, it gets easier once you get one or two on your website, then it gets easier to get the other one, because I said, hey, oh, you're interested in a show, this is my website, have a look, and they see, oh, Jay Leno. I said, oh, Jamiroquai. I said, yeah, come over.
Yeah, that's so
That's
cool.
easier.
Yeah.
So, and then also I think, because I always shoot fast and painless, I can go for a second time, because I know, okay, he's probably gone in 15 minutes, so
yeah, he's not going to suck my time.
He's not going to suck my time, and another picture.
And he's also not like a talky guy. Like, he's not going to come in here and just trying to be my friend. You're like, is he trying to take pictures, or is he don't want to trying to be my friend? You know?
Yeah. I never ask for selfie.
I think that's a cardinal sin, right? Like a number.
Act like you've been there type thing.
I tell people that all the time, because, you know, you've done it, and him and I travel enough where we meet famous people, and they're like, oh, did you get a picture with them? I'm like, no, I talked to him like a human being.
Yeah.
And they're like, but you didn't take I was like, dude, I don't take a selfie like with anybody. Like, that's weird. Like, I feel like that's weird to ask somebody that. Hey, can I get a selfie with you? Like, because now I'm kind of like, hey, I don't think of you as an equal in my mind, right? Like, maybe that's not the right way to approach it, but I do think that way. It's like, I think we're equal humans, so I shouldn't be like, hey, for my picture roll, can I get a selfie with you, man?
No.
You know?
And also, have a normal conversation with him. When I was on the road with Patrick Dempsey, when I parked my car there, so he took the car, and he had 2 kiddos playing football. So I'm talking to him, hey, how are the kiddos? How are they doing in school? Whether they play football? Do they like it? And then you have a normal conversation. And then we stop on the road to take gas, and then people come, oh my God, Patrick Dempsey. And then they ask a question like, do you miss television? Do you miss...
Silly stuff, right?
And then he answers, because
he's a professional.
He's a nice guy, but these kind of questions, no, leave it.
Yeah, he's not passionate about that, right?
No.
I mean, he does it for a job, so it's like, I shouldn't say not passionate. He is passionate about acting and stuff, but he that's like somebody's 9 to 5, right? Like, oh, how's work today?
Yeah.
Man, I don't want to talk about work, man. Come on.
No.
Like, I always tell that story, like, I've met, like, by happen chance, you know, Michael Jordan, the basketball guy, but he's a big Porsche guy, and I knew that. And everybody talks to this guy about sports and all this kind of stuff. But when I sat down, and we just happened to be in the same, like, area having drinks, and I just happened to be there, and he sits next to it, lights up a cigar, very stoic, sitting there. I said, hey, man, how do you like that 930 Turbo? You should have seen his eyes. He put, you know, everybody always wants to talk basketball or Nike or something like that with him, and he's like, man, I love that car. And you could just see him light up, and, like, it just changes what those guys are. And it's just like, if you know a little bit about your subject, it can go a long way, right? Like, if you're just kind of like, hey, man, I know a lot about you, actually, you know, outside of what everybody thinks they know. You know, it's like, hey, do you miss playing basketball? Like, instead of asking that question, I'm like, what do you think about the new Porsches? Oh, man, I don't like those, are too big, or whatever, you know. And it's like, man, that guy is a thinker. You know, he looks at you now as a thinker instead of like, oh, you're just like everybody else.
Yeah, finding the uncommon common ground, I guess, and being relatable, and that's probably make you more memorable than anything.
Yeah, finding the next layer, right? Like, what the layers to the person, right?
Absolutely.
Like, hey, you're a little bit layered up, you know, like, what's the next layer? So speaking in next layers, we talked a little bit offline, like, and like ourselves, we're car enthusiasts, not just Porsche enthusiasts. And same like yourself, you're a car enthusiast. You like vintage stuff. We know you have like vintage, you know, furniture and all that stuff. You also have a vintage Ferrari. Yeah. You have and you talk to us a little bit about that. You're going into maybe a Ferrari, or not maybe, you are doing a Ferrari
phase.
book, correct?
I'm doing a Ferrari book, yeah. Well, I always liked the Ferrari, of course, but I always thought it was way too expensive. But now we are reaching the point that the 993, at least in Europe, I think it's the same over here, 993, 964, is basically the same price than a 308 or a 348 or a 355. So I think, and to be honest, I think if you have to spend 100,000 euro on a nice 993, you can spend the same 100,000 euro on a nice 348 or 308. It's still a different kind of car. It's another level of car. You don't see a Ferrari every day.
No.
Why you see a Porsche every day?
Yeah.
People will say, yeah, there's a reason for that, because Porsche are much better. I don't know. They just treat them different. And I was super scared of it, because I was thinking, oh my God, it's going to cost me a lot of money. This car is going to break down. And to be honest, a 308 is a very simple car. It's super reliable. The gearbox and the engine is super nice. Of course, everything else like the electronics, it's Italian. You know? The window goes open down, and then
it doesn't.
not open anymore. And then you wait 20 times and then it works again, or it doesn't work anymore. So this is what it is. But apart from that, it's a super nice car.
Yeah. And it's got all the right vibes too, right? Pop-up headlights,
vintage.
Vintage. Like mid-engine. Like I think there's something cool to that too. I always said to myself, if I ever got a Ferrari, it would be like a 348 or something. That's more of kind of like a little bit more like the body cladding. Like a little bit more front fascia on that car. But I always thought it was super cool, right? Like, and there's something cool about that too, because it's not a perfect car, right? Like the pedals are a little off, like the steering is a little,
it's sitting a little bit like,
and but there's some charm in the imperfection, right? Like back to your photography, there's some charm in the imperfection.
It's very analog feeling. It's the gated shifting. It's a click clack.
Probably sounds amazing.
It sounds amazing. Do I feel comfortable to take the car and drive from Belgium to the south of France like for 12 hours straight? No, because I never did it. And I never see people doing it neither.
Well, you could be the first one, but
because probably everybody is scared for the same thing, but maybe they just go and maybe they just make it. Like in a 964, 993, I feel comfortable. Like
exactly,
no problem, you just go. It's solid. But Ferrari should work as well.
So did you find the Ferrari, or did it find you? Like, what's the story? Like, how did you the acquisition?
Well, I had a friend who had basically at some point I had the white 912 with the Benton engine. John Benton built me an engine, so it's not a slow 912. It's not like crazy fast near, but it's a good. It's almost
got
like
good
a
power.
911. And then I had exactly the same 911 slate gray with the red interior. So it's basically two of the same. You know?
Redundant, right?
Yeah. And I had a friend who had this white Ferrari, which he imported from the States. And he was like, maybe I want to go for a Porsche. And I was like, I have this one, and this is more or less what I want for it. And he was like, I have this one, this is what I want for it. I was like, you know what? Let's just
swap.
We swapped. And I was like, okay, I take it as it is, you take it as it is. And it was fine. So everybody happy. And
how long ago did that happen, roughly?
That's let's say a year ago. And he imported the car like 3-4 years ago from the States. And it was from a drug dealer. Guy is still in jail because I looked up his name. And his mom.
So there's a story to it.
His mom.
Did it come from Miami?
No, it didn't come from Miami, but probably close to. And his mom kept the car away, like hidden for a while. But at some point she had to sell, probably because to pay lawyers and whatever. So the car came to Europe. He bought the car and then he did a repaint and a lot of work on it. So, but the reason why I wanted it is it's white.
I do like that.
With a blue interior.
That's so unique, right?
Because I said, if I'm gonna buy a Ferrari, every color but not a red one. Not that I think it's ugly, but everybody has a red one.
Like I don't want to have the most common color.
No. But white is I think it's sexy, and it's old enough for people to think.
Well, old school Ferraris in white are so cool.
It's not arrogant, because if you go to 348, it's still nice, but 355 already looking like a modern car. And then people go like, with
pretentious,
Ferrari,
right?
Yeah, they don't let you through because they like Ferrari. It's the same with the new Porsche. It's the same. You're always you always look like an idiot when you're driving a new Porsche. If an old one,
you're like, this guy's a douchebag.
So with the 308, it's Magnum, of course, from the series. People see it sold, and it's a low car. It's a small car. So
it's cool.
People have sympathy for it, and I think it works. It works.
And at least when you take pictures of it, it's actually white. So black and white works.
It's black and white. It's white and blue, but it's
How was your so your own friendship and where your home base is at, right? Obviously, I know you know all different types of people, but just your car network people when you did a Ferrari, because this is funny to me because I know this about you. You like all types of stuff, but were there people with you like that were friends with you that maybe didn't know you, your depth, and be like, hey man, what are you doing with a Ferrari? Like, what's going on with you? Or did you get any of that? Or did anybody say like,
No,
I would have never thought you would have bought one of those?
Yeah, there's always people who are like, oh my God, did you really buy a Ferrari? And yeah, but there's more brands than we talked about it.
Yeah,
There's more brands than Porsche. I always like an old Saab.
Mm-hmm.
I like it as well. An old BMW,
Yeah.
an old Mercedes. If you like it, you like it. You know, it's nice. If it's nice, it's nice. So I organized a couple of events in Belgium, and the first one was called Fraternity.
Okay.
We were driving all guys, all Porsches, and now we have a little event that I organize, and there's one rule: you can bring whatever you want, but no Porsche. So everybody's coming with the Volvo, BMW. We went to Ferrari, so we have all kinds of cars.
Old Defender shows up. Yeah.
Whatever, and it's called cruises for pleasure.
Okay.
So we're cruising. We're not like
Yeah,
racing.
yeah.
We're just like cruising
Yeah.
because we know Mercedes.
Yeah.
You have to cruise. The Ferrari, same. It's a fast car. You can have fun. But I feel like when I'm in the Ferrari, I feel more like cruising.
Yeah.
It's a V8.
Yeah, just flow, right?
You flow. But I was surprised how
Yeah, tight everything felt.
yeah, it's a,
Well, I think it's
It is a
sexy
sports
too.
car, so.
it's
like
a sport car. You
With Porsche, you know, I think because you're vintage and we're vintage guys, and I think if you know your history, you know why Porsche's sexy, right? They have lineage and, you know, with racing and all of the stuff, and like Ferrari's just the same, right? Like it's sexy Targa Floria stuff, you know, and all the sexy races they used to win back in the day, and you know how high level Le Mans, and like I think that brand has a lot of cachet, you know, so it has a lot of vintage and a lot of history. And I think, you know, with the modern stuff, like the buyers that are buying those, I think they probably get maybe not know that or not as educated on it, but like the vintage stuff, the vintage guys, I think there's something to be said for that, right? Like I think that was when they were still in their purity of like, hey, we still want to win road races, you know, we're not only focused on, you know, F1 anymore. Like, you know, back then, you know, where it started, it was all the road racing, right?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Well, Porsche, Ferrari has a lot of pedigree. Pedigree,
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
Yeah, pedigree to the brand. If you see a Lamborghini, for example, they don't have that in racing. They have the Miura, which is a beautiful car, and they have another different. But if you see the new ones,
Exactly.
it doesn't work for me.
And also, like, lineage, right, is different. Spawned for a different reason. That company was spawned out of spite, right? Like out of anger. Hey, I'm going to build a car company because I think your transmissions suck, you know? So
It's a different ballgame.
yeah. So yeah, I think it's pretty neat. Like I it's cool that I think all of us have that cars that we still seek in our life, right? We're going to live a long time and want to try different things and not want to be siloed up and say, hey, only Porsche, right?
No.
And it's funny how like you've met so many people, and we obviously won't name names, but we'll just talk about categories of people a little bit for like with Porsche. Like we meet the high level, right? The pretentious guys that are, you know, this is a 1 of 13. I have a 935 and they're the collectors, and I can only talk to other collectors, right? And if you're not in my game, you know, and then there's the guys that are all the way down on the other end that are just happy with like a 914, right? And he's a young guy and he's like, hey, I wanted a Porsche and I just wanted kind of like a vintage car, and I'm not buying it because it's a Porsche, but I like it because it's like mid-engine and it's, you know, and it's not very valuable. And then you have those guys, and there's everybody in between, right? The trendy guys that are like, you know, we're the outlaw guys, we're this. And then, you know, I think it's so funny. Everybody wants to put themselves in type a Porsche persona, I guess is the best way to say it, right?
It's
like,
subculture within the
yeah,
brand.
It's
this
a
is
culture,
my-
but a lot of subcultures within the culture,
Uh-huh.
you know. And there's also a lot of, I'm not saying hate, but there's a lot of people who are driving in a transaxle.
Mhm.
Most of the time, people with an iron lamp look a little bit down to them, like,
You're absolutely right.
yeah. And there's no reason for that,
Mhm.
because I had a 944, and that's a great car.
Yes.
That's a great car. It drives well. It's well balanced. It's super comfortable.
I think they look cool.
They look cool. They look super 80s, begin 90s.
Yes.
Super nice car. So, but you have these subcultures, and I think you have it in everything, in music, in cars, in bikes. You have it. But what I wanted to say, and I always try to photograph people from all walks of life
Mhm.
in my books. I think
Yeah,
that,
oh yeah.
that makes it
Yeah.
interesting. And the thing you have now, like when I started with my first book, like 10, 12 years ago, then the price of a good 964, good one, was between 30 and 35.
Yes.
You could pick them out for that money, which is still reasonable money. But now a good one is like 100,000.
Yes.
Easily.
So people who step in the game today, spending 100,000 euro, that's different kind of people.
You're right.
That's people who kind of, they buy it because they can afford it. But so you get a different audience driving those cars.
That's true.
Which is not always my kind of audience.
Same.
Yeah. I get along with everybody. That's not the problem. But I mean,
yeah, but the people you want to spend your intimate time with
Yeah.
aren't necessarily like, you know, those
Yeah.
the very highfalutin type of. You're like,
Exactly.
look, I just want to real people. Like you're driving the car, you know, like if you talk to somebody, same with us. It's like, I bought the car for me. I don't care what it is, and I want to use it because I want to daily drive it. Okay, good. And I want that experience every day. And I go to my architectural studio, and you could make a lot of money, but you're still down to earth, and that's a cool guy, right? Or you're like, okay, hey, I go to same guy, go to my architectural studio, I make a lot of buildings and I make a lot of money, and I want to buy a 964 RS because it is a 964 RS, and I don't want to talk to anybody else. It's like, that guy's an asshole. Like,
yeah.
you know.
But I see my son is 15, he's getting 16 this summer. Let's say in 2 years, you want to buy, you know, you need a daily driver with your family, and then you say, hey, I'm into cars, maybe I want to buy a Porsche 993 is what I really like, but it's going to be 100, 120 by that time. How is he going to make 120?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
At that age, you know.
It is.
It's still a lot of money when you're 50, just to put on a
Yeah.
car, because especially
Just for fun, right?
Just for fun, and especially where I live in Belgium, if you drive 20 days a year, you have a good year.
Oh yeah, weather.
Yeah.
Weather conditions, because December.
So yeah, thinking
December-
about that, like spending that kind of price point to drive maybe 3 weeks that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
You can
of
drive it in the
sacrifice.
rain, in the snow if you want as well, but I mean, when you really want to have fun,
Yeah.
it's not really that fun. But you guys, you can drive all year round, so you can really use it as a daily driver.
Yeah, you could.
But
But yeah, I agree with you. Like especially in the Porsche world, and not only just Porsche world, even like, you know, 308s and 348s used to cost a lot less too, and they've gone up. And I think the whole car market, it's changed in a way where there's always been the people, I feel like, in the car enthusiast area where they buy cars to brag, and even if they're not vocally bragging, they're bragging by showing you that they have that. But I feel more so now because all of the vintage stuff has become more trendy, and I feel like guys like us were like, man, I used to be able to buy so many. We've talked about this before. It's like I could buy so many cool cars back in the day for a normal price, but now they're trendy, and now wealthier people are coming in and trying to buy a piece of that trend, right? To like maybe up their street credit or whatever their goal is to buy that car, other than drive it, right? Like I want to drive it. Like I'm gonna take it to Cars and Coffee, and I want everybody to know that I got a 993 RS.
Yeah.
You know, it's like because everybody knows how much they cost.
Yeah.
exactly. But it's probably okay. It's probably the way how things go.
But like, so you have kids, so to talk a little bit about that, do you feel like in like, you know, them being car enthusiasts, getting older, or whatever they get into, or whatever, you know, they're fancy in their life, do you see like them being priced out of things that, you know, they shouldn't be priced out of, you know, like where things that like, man, that sucks because like now my kid, unless I, like you, pass your stuff to them, they're not going to get to experience stuff on their own.
Yeah, my son really likes a Mazda with the lights come up. Was it MX-5 or what
Yeah,
is it?
Miata.
For whatever reason, he likes that kind of car. So, and that's affordable. That's good.
Yeah.
5,000-6,000.
Keep liking that one.
So,
Yeah.
so when he can buy that and has a lot of fun, it's fine for me. He's not really into the old ones because if I ask him what should I buy, then he says GT3 because for them it's now GT3.
Again,
Yeah.
branding,
But for us it's the same. We when we were young it was a 993. So
Good job, Porsche. You're brainwashing the youth.
you're
GT3
brainwashing them. So I don't know if my youngest one is going to be interested in cars, but if I ask them, like we have in the garage the Ferrari and the 308 and then the 912, you say pick one because I'm going to sell one of those.
Yeah.
They both say keep the Ferrari.
I like that though. That's cool.
Because for them Ferrari probably sounds still a little bit different than a Porsche. A Porsche is not like an exceptional car anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everybody's driving a Porsche.
And they're more common.
There's a lot of Porsches.
Yeah, they're more common, you know.
They're more common, yeah, absolutely. And they were, but affordable, but like a 308 was also, 5 years ago was also 25,000.
Yes.
And now it's also 100.
Yeah, it's gone up,
it's gone up, so.
The price of vintage, right? Like, it's gotta go up. Like, people want it.
It's gotta go up and
they're not making any more of them, so.
No, it's getting more and more expensive, I think. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, like, change gears a little bit. Like, so we've talked about this on the podcast before, and, you know, being guys who appreciate lineage and all this stuff. There are so many resto mod companies from the Porsche brand out there currently. Like, it seems like every week there's a new one coming out. What are your personal thoughts on that? Enjoying vintage cars, but then having these, I don't want to say chop up, like just being remodeled, meaning people go and buy these air-cooled cars and they turn them into an IROC or an RS clone, or, you know, like a Singer, I'm going to take a 964 and do this. What are your thoughts on those cars, and like, and not necessarily taking shots at companies, but like this, like the saturation of the market, like there's so many of them. Do you think that that's like way too much? Like, shouldn't be so many of them? Do you think it's the market calls for that, or they wouldn't exist? Or are you in the sense that, like, man, a couple of them are fine, but like, dude, why is there 35 of them making cars and redoing all these things that, like, the car was already cool, like, and then I turned it into $1.5 million car after you gave me the car. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think the market's just so saturated with that stuff.
Yeah, I think most cars are almost perfect the way they come out of the factory.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also think the people working at the factory back in the days, like, I mean, 60s, 70s, 80s, smart guys.
Yes.
It's not like a bunch of idiots making a car. So, but if you want to tweak your car or make it an outlaw, that's all good with me. For me personally, when I stepped into the Porsche game, I was inspired by Magnus Walker, of course. The documentary came out, Urban Outlaw. I was like, oh my God, you can do whatever you want with your car, and it's fine. And we had a collector in Antwerp, and I talked to him and said, his name was Johan. I said, Johan, I have this car now, but maybe I want to do the bumpers in orange. What do you think? Because my car is silver. I said, you can do whatever you want. It's your car, you know? It's like, okay. So I needed.
That's a great response, isn't it?
I need a little bit of confidence, like, okay.
Yeah, it's okay to do this, right?
Can I really do this? And then I went for the orange mirrors, and then the mirrors from a 964, and it was like, it's not like it was a Frankenstein, but it was a nice car, heavily inspired by what Magnus was doing. So I enjoyed it a lot, but then later on, like now, for example, I don't feel it anymore. I see it and like, I don't want it. Not even for 5,000.
Yeah.
You know, I want them stock now.
Yeah.
I want my cars stock. Even with the Ferrari now, I think I'm gonna gold wheels. No, it's good as it is. Keep it like it is. It's nice. It's beautiful. So I try to enjoy that. Talking about the companies, I think Singer is doing an amazing job, especially in the beginning, the first years. What they do right now, it's engineering.
Well, they were one of the first to market, right?
Yeah.
So like that's
it's
what's
top
great
level
about
engineering, but to spend 1 million, 2 million on a car, I'm thinking, for the money you can buy a Bugatti as well. You know, it's a different ball game.
Yes.
Maybe, but it's a lot of money. I like what Rod Emery is doing with the 356.
Yes. And he's like one of the few in that sector doing that still,
absolutely.
right?
For sure.
But then there's this other sub brands doing a lot of. You have Gunter Works doing with the 993.
Couple places in Europe, right? Like doing their thing, spinning off, you know.
I think there's 4 or 5 brands like Singer and Rod Emery, and then maybe Gunter Works, and then maybe some others doing really nice stuff, and then all the rest is like trying to clone them, to copy them, and doing the same stuff, but
like piggybacking on their momentum almost, right?
Like, because I see guys building cars in the Netherlands, for example. It's just like pieces picked from the Louvre Decklet from Magnus. Let's put it on the car, and then this Rod Emery did this. Let's put it on the car as well, and then they made something nice. But I don't think
you know
it's
what
really
I like a lot? Tuttle. Tuttle in South Africa, they build awesome cars there. Like they don't try to like resto mod too. They kind of try to keep stuff stock.
Tuttle in the UK.
Oh yeah.
It's UK.
UK, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, and I know him very well. I go with him to the rally in Kenya at the end of the year.
That's
cool.
He's making amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And if you see it from the outside, it looks
real engineering stuff.
It's
right?
real engineering. Yeah.
Like I love what they do there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like amazing. But yeah, I just wanted to get because you're European, so you see a lot of stuff and you travel a lot. I just wanted to bounce that off you because, we see stuff, but like it's always nice to hear what somebody else's opinion is on that, because I just feel like there's so many of them. And does the market really need that? Like, are people asking for that?
Yeah, probably. I think so.
Yeah.
There's also a big
but I guess because they're all different buyers, right? Like high level buyers want that, I guess, right? Like they don't want like even an outlaw car where somebody like you and I get it and you're like, oh well, let's do some bolt-ons and make it this and do it. Like they got to have something. It's like, oh well, all carbon fiber. I got to do a 4-liter. I got to do this. I got to do all this stuff, and then I'm going to take it to Pebble Beach and just park it. It's like,
well, I mean, you got to think about it. The fact too that they probably weren't the age where they could buy that brand new and then spec it the way they wanted to.
Yeah.
So them getting a chance to build something their exact way, and especially the way they've been marketed for the modern stuff.
That makes sense.
Where you go and do a CXX build and you do this leather, this color. Well, now I can do the same thing with my vintage car that I kind of like.
The thing is, if you see, for example, a Singer, then there's years and years of thinking and trying and engineering.
Mm-hmm. And there's artistry in that
artistry
too.
Went into that car and trying, no, this doesn't work. So I kind of understand why it's an expensive car. But then you see builders in Europe or in the States making an outlaw, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's 250,000. I'm thinking,
you're like, what?
Why?
Yeah.
Like why? Because there's the louver decklet, and there's another exhaust. But then I say, hey, greetings from Disneyland, but this car is like 150,000
tops.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
that's
too much. It's like maybe 100.
Oh yeah, like what you're saying. Yeah.
But in the end, it's an SC, and it's still an SC,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's like putting lipstick on a pig, right? You're kind of like, look, you made this thing all dressed up, and it's cool, but it's not $250,000 cool. No. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's not been another company that's followed Singer, and I mean, maybe Gunterworks, but followed them in the way of that, building a brand, thinking about it, designing it for the last 10 years. Nobody's tried to copy it in that way.
Yeah. That shit's expensive. That's why.
Well, exactly. But they just decided, like, well, Singer did it, and it's selling. Let's just do that.
Well, I think that's the problem with a lot of the world, not to get too deep into like world problems, but I think everybody wants the cheat code, right? Like people don't want to grind and do the things. Like people just want the answers to the end of the test, right? Like, okay, hey, skip to the end of the semester. I'm going to take the final exam and be done with it, right? Like, so I think that's what maybe a lot of those companies are doing. They're not doing the years of R&D. Like, man, that doesn't work. Hey, I'm going to do 27 renderings of the Fuchs wheel that I want for my car, that Rob did, like he's like sat there, when you see all of those photos of him in the garage and all those late nights of him trying to figure it out. You got all these fly-by-night companies that comes up. It's like, oh yeah, we're just going to send the motor out, get that built. We're going to do JRZ suspension. It's like, you just bought a bunch of parts and just put it together, and then you charge $500,000 for it.
That's the thing. And that's exactly the same thing. To go back to the books, when you see a book from RioCam or whatever, or myself, I take every single picture myself. And sometimes I see a book coming out, which is a nice book, by the way, but it's a collection of other people's pictures. So that means I'm going to make a book, and I call you and 5 other photographers, send your best 15 pictures, I put it in the book, and I make a book.
Yeah.
That's not too complicated.
No. It's so easy to do that,
It's
right?
easy to do. You just send it to the
like,
print shop, you
I'll
print
pay
it,
you
and you
royalty
sell
for your photos. Thanks, man.
Yeah, most of the time they pay you nothing because they say, it's good, you're in a book
now.
now.
Oh, yeah, exposure, right?
Exposure.
That's
right?
how they sell it.
So you're in a book now. So that's a different ball game. If I make a book like that, I can sell it for 80 euros or 70 because I don't have to put the work in it, So, but is it okay? Yeah, whatever. If people like it, if that's the way you want to do it, that's okay.
And I think I think the people that have found your books and that follow you and love your work, whether they know you or not, whether from like personally or on social media or listen to you speak or wherever, I think in the same common thread, even in the vintage car, I won't even say Porsche, just vintage car in general. The reason why all of us think alike like that is because we like the process, right? Like all of us like that process, whether it's watchmaking or I'm making leather shoes or I'm making clothes or I'm making cars or I'm doing photography. I don't want a book that you just said that like, oh, I called 6 people and now I have 6 different artists that I just slapped together in a book. Like I want something to know, like, when I look at it, even though I don't know anything about your industry, but I know more of it from talking with you, but like, dude, this guy shot this in these people in Germany and then he was in England and then he shot these guys in Florida. Like I'm like, man, this guy's been all over the place. And I'm starting to think, I'm thinking even your journey. I mean, I know your journey, but if somebody just is paying attention to the details of the book, we're like, wow, like this dude is a world traveler and this guy is grinding this out, and I think people who like vintage cars or vintage anything, like they like that there's history and process, and it's not easy, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, it's not easy. And it's not, making books is not a great business model neither, unless you do it the way I just told you, and you print like 10,000 books. Yeah, then it's great because the price between printing 1,000 books and 2,000 is nothing anymore. So the thing is, you have to get them sold. So, or you go with like Taschen or whatever company, and they sell 10,000 books. Then you sell them for cheaper, and then you make a lot of more money, of course. But it was never my intention to print 10,000 books. I always want to have it like an edition of 300, and then the first ones were like 911. Now, like
knowing you, like I just like you have a lot of integrity. Like for you, like for me, like everybody wants money. Like let's be real, like that. But there's some point where you're like, I don't want to sell out like that. Like almost like that's not me. Like I want, and I think for me with the Porsche series that you did, with them all being limited, like in my mind, it triggers like a thing. It's like maybe it's good, bad, I don't know, marketing, I know psyche, whatever it is. I'm like, man, I need to buy a book because I want these and I want the series, and if I don't buy them, they're gonna run out. And I like the fact that not everyone has that. Like that's another thing.
That's the thing, but that's for me always difficult because, let's say I print 1,000 books and I sell them for 150. That's 150,000. Or I print only 100 books and I sell them for 1,005.
Yeah.
In the end, it's the same.
Yes.
But what does the audience want?
Yeah.
Do you prefer to have a book like, hey, it was 1,005, but there's only 100 of them, and I have number 65 or something, or there's like 1,000 books? Some people don't care. They say, I just want the book.
Yeah.
Some people say, for me personally, I like books, so I would always go for the limited, little bit more expensive book to say, I have it.
Same. Because I show people the same thing. Like when they come to my house, if they look at that, I'm like, look, those are numbered. I always say that. I'm like, look, those are numbered. And they're like, whoa. And even people don't even know anything. They look at them. They're like, wait, there's only like 1,000 of these? I'm like, yeah, dude.
That's always difficult exercise.
Yeah, because then from a marketing standpoint, right, like you run into a problem of like, man, a lot of work invested, a lot of time invested. Am I selling myself short? Can I sell 5,000 of these and be more profitable per book? Or would that be too many, and would I dilute them by doing that? Because everybody's like, that guy who thought they were special at 1,000 might not think they're special at 5,000.
Yeah. Well, for the LA book, because they were sold out like in 5-6 weeks, I could probably sell 3 or 4 times more than I did.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a reprint. We're going to do a magazine. I told you magazine about it. For March, we're going to have a big event to celebrate the magazine. So I'm going to take the best pictures, make a nice magazine, and then we're going to do a party. But yeah.
Do you think you would ever reprint your books that have sold out? Like, that's always a question I've always thought about, like for limited stuff, or, I mean, I know the answer, but I just kind of want to, like, or does that just dilute all of those other ones? Or can you just say, okay, hey, this is the second rendition of it's the same book, but it's another run?
No, I'm not a big fan of that.
Because then it's kind of just a cash grab, right?
Well, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
what you can do is make the same book and make it like a little bit smaller. Then it's a different book. Then you say, hey, it's a different book. It's like a CD from the Stones. They have like, I have so many CDs.
Yeah.
I think it's the same. It's the same songs, but in different order and different cover. But basically the same songs. But still, people buy it. So no, I'm not going to do. What I can do, for example, a Flat Six Love Affair. I have a lot of people who stepped in too late. Like, hey, I have book 5 and 6 because.
Yeah,
But
I was going to ask you
where
about
is the
that.
rest of the books? So, yeah,
They sold out, man, sorry.
So
That would be something I think that would make sense if you
But-
had purchased previously.
I said
And they could just
they're
be, like,
limited,
not numbered
9/11. So what I can do is, for example, make like a best of, maybe a little bit bigger, and say, "This is it."
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, something like this.
Or just not, and they're just limited, you know?
Yeah.
Just keep it.
Yeah, but then
the
we
way
have
it is.
again the same books limited.
Yeah.
I don't want.
Yeah, that is kind of an odd situation to be in, right? Because like you said, if people picked it up towards the end of it at Flat Six Love Affair and they have like H and E and they did, but you know, then it could be one of those situations where you're like, hey, sorry, man, that you didn't get them when they started.
I
but
can tell you this series is a pain in the ass, and I tell you why. I have a big Excel file at home, so I knew in the beginning. So you bought number, I don't know, whatever, 118. So, and book number 2 again 118. So I knew like, okay, probably he's gonna buy all of them 118.
Yeah.
So I have an Excel file of this. Then all of a sudden you buy book 1, 2, 3, and then 4 comes out, and you don't buy them anymore, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Maybe you thought book 3, this guy sucks. I'm not gonna buy
Yeah.
books anymore.
Or maybe you just got busy and they all sold out, right?
Or you get busy, or you bought a new house and it's not a priority. And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, which the problem that I have now, like people like, hey, I have book 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like it's time to buy 5, 6, and 7. So they're gone. And I say, yeah, but
I don't have the collection now.
I have the collection. I say, yeah, but I send an email like, hey,
That's the
book's out.
point.
You should just show them your bookshelf that you don't have them either. You're like, hey, look, see this?
Or I have people only have book number 4 because in that book is whatever the neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
So-
they were in it, right?
Or they
And-
were in it.
Yeah.
So they said, give me 20 because I'm in it.
Yeah.
And then they sell out faster, and then I don't have them anymore for people. So it's complicated. So, and then all these gaps with the numbers because I had like, okay, people buy 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7 anymore. But I have your number 118.
Yeah.
I have for book 1, 2, 3, but 4, 5, 6 is basically free. So if people only want 6, I say, okay, which number do I have? Oh, 118
Yeah.
is free.
Yeah.
Whatever, I give them 118,
Yeah.
gone. And then all of a sudden it gets complicated. It's like, oh my God, where,
Yeah.
where am I within the numbers? So then I decided I was looking, I said, I can make probably 50 full sets because all of the gaps with the numbers. So I decided to make 50 full sets and say, this is it. You
And
know,
the-
and then I'm
Yeah.
done.
Then now it's together, right? So then you don't have to mess with it like
No,
that,
no, no.
right?
So I'm printing 50 full sets, and they send me the first because I wanted to have a sample, like 7 books. And you know, the book, the first one is black, then the second one is gray, black, gray, black. And they're sending it to me, and they're all black. And I call them and say, listen,
Hey, man.
it has to be black, gray, black, gray. You know, you send all black books. I say, I'm sorry, we thought it was all black. I said, no. And I'm thinking, but it looks nice. So I put on my website, full set, full black set. So I
Yeah.
called it full black set. So people call me, should I buy it again? I said, no, because it's the
Yeah.
same. It's the same books. Don't
Yeah.
buy it. Yeah, but it's full black set. It's nice.
Okay.
Buy
if
it, buy
you want it.
So I have people who bought it again. Because
Nice.
It's
Now
all,
That's all black.
It's all black.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, you think about it. If you know you have maybe you have multiple houses, that would work. Or you want to put one in your office and put one at home, like that could work.
you just told me you would pay double.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
could-
There you go.
He's getting the
Full
bill
black
after this
I
podcast.
know, right?
So-
Yeah, I'm gonna get an invoice.
Yeah. So
But I mean, I'm not saying that because you're here, because I really believe that, because I think it's unique, and like
yeah,
the
but
paper,
they sold all as well.
yeah,
the
the paper
50,
quality, yeah, it's
Yeah.
thick. Like
Yeah.
for everybody who doesn't have one, I feel like they missed out, because it's not only is it limited, but the work of the work it's in it is, and it shows all of the cool, like, not, there's a lot of cool people that aren't in it. I shouldn't say that, so I'll retract that a little. There's just a lot of cool people that are in all of those series that I'll probably never get to meet, but I get to see them in that book and be
Yeah.
like, hey, that's cool. that's cool that person has that car, lives in that part of the world.
Yeah. For me, it's a little bit different. If I look back at them, and I hardly look at my own books. It's weird. I never take them to go flip through them. But if I see that series, the first 3 or 4, when I see the pictures now, I'm thinking, oh my God, I would do it a total different way. So for me, it's also an evolution of seeing my photography getting probably better, and seeing different angles and stuff like this. So that's for me weird to look at it. Am I happy with all the people that I photographed? Yes. Some of them I would definitely shoot again. Some of them I would think, now I would probably pick something else. In terms of places, if I would do it again, I would for sure went to Japan or Africa, or so it's really nice spread out mix of everything.
Depth of culture.
Because now the first 4 are basically Europe, and then you have 5 in California, and 6 it's all over the place again with Miami, and then 7 is all over the place again. But still Europe and United States. So I missed out on Asia, and so that's a pity.
But hey, those are other things that you could do in the
Exactly,
future, right?
that's
Like
the
you could be like Far East, like or Love Affair.
Yeah, Far East Love Affair.
Hey, there you go.
I saw a nice book, by the way. Someone sent it to me on Instagram. It was funny, and it was called The 906 Love Affair. With the same typo and the 906 Love Affair. I think, okay. Guys, he's being creative.
So inspired somebody there.
Inspired somebody.
What is that? When somebody copies you, it's the highest form of flattery, right?
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a coincidence, but I'm not really worried about it. But, but yeah, it's an interesting. If you take pictures, the thing is when you try to be creative, and you try to tell a story through a medium, which is for me photography, it's interesting how you see it evolving over the years. Sometimes I'm always almost feel ashamed, like, oh my God, this series of pictures, I should have totally rip it out and do it again. And so,
how long had you been taking photographs before you did the first book? Because I know you said it was you did the agency and then with the hobby of photography.
I've always been taking pictures, but never really on a professional way.
Level.
My father was a hobby photographer. He was interested in Hasselblad because that.
What's the brand?
That was a brand, and he never got one, but he was always talking about it. And I remember him taking pictures of me in the garden, the boring stuff, like dress up because I'm gonna take a picture, standing in the garden, like I'm Dad, I want to play soccer with my friends, and look here, look there.
Your body language is written that you don't want to be there.
Look like you're happy, and or like the 80s kind of style, like point to something which is
look stoic.
So, and then he died, and then I picked it up, the photography, and I started shooting a couple of friends, made my first book. He never saw my book, not a single one, because he died in 2013, and the first one came out, I think, in 15 or something. So
that's pretty wild.
Yeah, but I was taking pictures before, but not really on a professional level. And I think being a photographer is also. I'm not saying it's overrated, but I think anybody who goes in a shop, buys a camera, goes out and starts shooting, is taking pictures, and then you're being creative, and people are afraid of. And I must admit, the first year that I had to say, "What are you doing for a living?" I would say, "Photographer." Got sweat dripping off my back, like, oh my God, because it doesn't sound.
Yeah.
When I was younger,
doesn't sound real, right?
No, it doesn't sound real. And when I was younger, and I would say to my dad, "I want to be a photographer." Yeah, it's good, but for the weekend. But what do you want to do?
Yeah, exactly.
For real.
You're like, that sounds fun with your hobby, but what do you want to do for money?
Yeah. What do you do for money? And
you're like, no, I want to do that for money. You're like, that's funny. There's like 3 people in the world that are photographers that make money, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to be one.
Yeah.
No. And that's the thing right now. Now, you can take great pictures with an iPhone. So basically, everybody's taking photographs these days. Not something special anymore, because everybody has pictures from everything. Yeah. And I see people the new generation doing great stuff with their iPhone.
Yeah.
So the market is
But they're also not printing them either, though.
no, they're not printing them anymore. It's all goes on the screen.
Yeah.
And it all goes fast.
The cloud. It's in the cloud,
going in
man.
the cloud, and you see it right now, and you scroll and it's gone. Tomorrow it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's why I like a book, because it's timeless, and you flip through it and you see it again. But
Clearly, there's a demand for it. I mean,
there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of good people shooting stuff.
Let that be a lesson to any future photographers listening or watching. There still is a market for it.
There's still a market for it. You just have to be
show your work
a little bit different than
Yeah.
than all the others, and it's getting more and more difficult. Of
Step
course.
out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say earlier, is when we were talking about Rob and Singer and in yourself, it's just the originality, and that's the difference maker. And both Singer, that's why nobody's been able to reproduce it, because he spent the hours, because he's like, this wheel needs to look this way, because
He
that's
did the
what I like.
uncomfortable shit.
Yeah.
Like,
But that was you have to keep doing the uncomfortable shit and the out of your comfort zone shit, and it sounds cliche, but that's why when I have a shoot tomorrow, for example. I have shoots all the time that I'm here, a lot of shoots. So for me, shooting someone with a car is not like I'm getting nervous, because I did it 1,000 times already. So the way I try to make it interesting for me is go out there with 2 rolls of film and 1 lens. So that gets me a little bit like, shit, I only have 1 lens. Today
I got to make this work.
Today I take the 35mm, end of the story.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, it's a little bit too wide for cars, but let's try it. Or I only take the one, I did 180mm, which is really long. So I take the 180 today and 2 rolls of film. That's it. Not 5, 2 rolls of film. And that makes it like, I have to be sharp. I have to be on the edge. I have to think. Not like shoot and click, and I will see when I get home, in the 5,000 pictures. And then there's always a good one. Yeah. So that's how I try to
So you have to
make
take the right shots, right? Like you have to think about your shots.
And that's how I try to make it, keep it for me as interesting and creative and exciting as possible.
But that's the artist part of that. Like for like on the outside, being a third party to what you just said, that's what makes it so cool though. Instead of you just going in there and shooting 1,000 on a digital, right? And just, and then going back in the, I feel like, and you could speak to this, a lot of photographers nowadays still shoot, but they shoot digitally. The whole work is all editing, right? They go into the editing studio. It's like, don't talk to me for 10 hours. I got 5,000 photos that I got to edit, and I got to get 30 out of these 5,000. And it's like, why did you take 5,000 pictures? Yeah. Like for me, like I get why maybe you're afraid to miss a shot, but like I feel like at the same time, like that's got to be so hard to filter all of that crap.
Yeah, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it because you have this, but also this and this and this.
Yeah, right.
Jeez. So, but my
and you can get lost in that editing, right?
Yeah, you get lost. My best pictures come out of situations where it has to be fast or where it's blurry. Sometimes it's not intended, but it's great. I remember being on tour with the Soul Savers, and they were on tour together with Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode. And they said, you know what, you can join us for the 3 days. We do Paris, we do London, we do Berlin. Join us and fly on the wall and take pictures. And I said, okay, fine.
You're like, this would be cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool. So, Dave Gahan,
Yeah,
Depeche
of course.
Mode, it's different,
Absolutely.
And I was like, okay. So I met his manager, which is an asshole, because they all have to be assholes, because they trained and they paid to say no.
Yeah.
If you ask something, say no.
Yeah.
Whatever you ask, they say no.
Yeah.
Because so that's why you want to have a manager.
95% is always no, right?
It's always no. So he was doing a good job. So, but he was noticing me that I was going there for 3 days, and he, what are you doing? So I'm taking pictures, flying the wall, stuff for and then you can. He said, but I would like to have a picture of Dave, like a nice portrait. I said, okay, we fix it. So London, nothing. I said, okay. So we go to Paris, and in Paris, I said, you want to take that picture of Dave? I said, yes. I said, okay. 2:00, hotel room in the Peninsula in Paris. I said, okay. I go there, go into the room. Nobody there. I said, he's here in a minute. So Dave walks in, and the manager goes like, you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and I had to put the roll in the camera.
You're like,
I take the roller 3-400, put it in as fast as I can, click. I didn't see the shutter speed. I didn't see if it was ISO 400, so I was lucky it was. I look at him. and I'm seeing it's way too dark here.
Yeah.
You know, but I had no time. So can you put a light on it? Because the guy was already like,
yeah, he's on the way out already.
You already, he lost,
Even-
30 seconds, And I was like, my shutter speed was like 1/15 of a second or 1/8 of a. She's like, this is fucking. I go click, 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 and I think 4 or 5, and he's like,
You're done.
okay, you're done. I was like, shit, fuck. And I remember walking on. I said,
You're like, that's gonna look like shit.
this is gonna look like shit. I make a fool out of myself. I wasted a lot of money.
And they're gonna be like, hey,
freelance.
show me that picture. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man, I don't want to show it.
And
to
I
you.
remember I took an Uber. I drove straight to the Leica shop in Paris and said, give me the Q2. That's a digital one. So next time I'm there, I put it ISO 8000. I go like this.
Yeah.
But I knew it's not going to make me happy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not me. So and the picture of Dave turned out really, really great because he had his sunglasses on. It's a little bit blurry. And he's like, it's super mysterious.
Yeah.
So
So it's like totally rock star style, right?
it's
like,
totally nice.
yeah, where it's kind of like, dude, that totally makes sense. Like for that guy, that photo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense. And sometimes it is what it is. I'm a big fan of Anton Corbijn, the Dutch photographer, and he was with all these mega stars when they were young, like U2 and Depeche Mode and all of them. And all of his pictures are blurry. Because he was shooting on film all the time, and it's
It's just
always
film,
something
yeah.
Like moving
something
around,
going on.
trying to get the photo.
Yeah, but he has some kind of a mood and a vibe, and I think people want to pay for a vibe or a mood. You don't want to pay for laser sharp 300 million pixel
Yeah.
photograph. Why?
Well, it almost like makes a still photo motion, right?
Yeah.
Like those
Why?
old like race car photos where those guys weren't even trying to shoot it in motion, but the car's blurry because that's what the camera caught.
Yeah.
But it looks cool though, right?
It looks
Because
cool.
now it's like that photo looks alive though, as opposed to like where you said
Yeah.
where it's mega pixelated and it's just a still frame, and you're like, man, you're like, what's going on with his eyes? His eyes always look like that? Like it's
Yeah.
like too clear?
But
like,
it's the same with cars. Why do you want or why do you need 1,000 horsepower or 2,000 or 3,000 horsepower? Why?
exactly.
Why? If I have my 912 with like 90 or 100 or 75 horsepower, whatever, that's a lot of fun.
Yes.
Because you go, in every gear you go,
Yep.
boop, and all of a sudden the UPS come by. And I'm thinking I'm racing. It's like, fuck, oh my God. But this is like super nice.
It's true though. Like you get to the point where, I mean, even 997 GT3s, that's a lot of power. Like it's so much power, right? Like it's almost kind of
way
like
too much power. For
yeah.
I can handle. So
And it just turns into one of those things. Then it's like, I think a lot of these companies, they get in these horsepower wars, and it's kind of like, everybody doesn't need all this power, man. Like we have speed limits. People can't even drive that fast anyways. It's, dude, like, and I think a lot of people, why they go back to the vintage cars is because like, it's about the experience, right? It has a sound, it has a smell, makes you feel a certain way. I heard a lot of guys that and I know, it's a time machine, right? I get in that car and it takes me back to that time when that car like lived essentially. Yeah. And for that time that I'm in that car, I kind of feel like that, oh, whether it's a 60s car or 70s car or 80s car, it's like, hey, it's 80s. I'm going to put, like you said, I'm going to put some Depeche Mode on, or I'm going to put the cars on and just cruise and be like, man, if this car was brand new, that's probably something I'd be playing on the radio right now.
That's
and
what
I'm
you
driving around in it, like it's almost, it gives you those vibes, right? It's crazy. Well, we took a lot of your time, and I appreciate you coming down. I know you're a busy guy. We're excited to see your new book. I'm excited to see the Ferrari book, man. Like,
yeah, I have no clue when this is going to be.
Yeah, I know.
released,
It's
but,
just that's how it starts, right? It's a seed, and then it grows
it's
into
a seed, and it's more and more.
Yeah,
and
it
then,
grows.
Then the word goes out, and then now I have to make it.
Yeah. And then you're going to have all these Ferrari people reaching out. She's like, hey, I got a Ferrari too, right? Like, everybody who's listening who's a secret just Porsche guy, they also have a lot of vintage Ferraris. They're like, hey, Bart, I got some vintage Ferraris,
reach out to me. I'm looking for it because my network is not,
Yeah.
like in the Porsche world, I can get anywhere, basically. And I showed so many famous people that it's interesting, but Ferrari.
Yeah, Jay Leno. I know you got some awesome Ferraris.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have a Ferrari.
No, I know. I'm joking. I know, like from his shows, he's like, oh, I'm not buying Ferrari. But he is beautiful Mira though, but that's not a Ferrari.
That's not Ferrari.
That's another book for another day.
That's
Yeah.
another book.
Yeah. Sweet, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show.
You're more than welcome. I hope to see you
Yeah.
at DRT next
Yes.
week. If not,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to try to make our way down there for sure.
I have a rental which I have to bring back on the 23rd to St. Petersburg, so I have to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds
I
good.
bring you 2 books.
All right.
If you don't make it
Okay.
to Miami, I bring 2 books from Miami.
Really cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. All right. That's it.
That's it. We're out.